Good afternoon, everyone. We will start in the next few minutes as we wait for others to join. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome from Kalam Telecom. My name is Ronald Shera from the Marketing and Corporate Communications, and I will be your host for today's online webinar. Our speakers today have lined up a very insightful session on navigating business disruption during COVID-19 with private cloud solutions. Before we invite our first speaker, kindly note, if any of you have any questions during the session, please feel free to write them down in the Q&A window, and our speakers will address them towards the end. Also, towards the end of the session, you will find a feedback form link in your chat window. Upon submission, you will get a chance to win exciting e-gift vouchers, which you can use to shop from your local brands. The winners will be announced separately via email. Without further ado, I now invite Mr. Veer Pasi, Chief Executive Officer of Kalam Telecom, to start the session. Over to you, Veer.
Thank you, Ron. Yeah, thanks, Ron, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. And firstly, thank you all for taking time out to attend this session. I appreciate that. And both me and our partner, Deepak, we hope to make this session meaningful and learning for you all. As Ron mentioned, let me just quickly give a structure of today's presentation so you see what's coming in next 45 minutes. This session is divided into two parts. First, 10 to 15 minutes has been allotted to me, wherein I will quickly take you through about Kalam and what Kalam Telecom has been doing in terms of enhancing our capabilities, technical capabilities, and managed solution capabilities in the cloud space. And then I will hand over the session to my dear friend and our partner, Deepak, who is the founder of Vanago, who will take you through in specific details of the case studies of cloud, which has been adopted in these times. Deepak will take another 30 to 40 minutes. And as Ron mentioned, then we will open the Q&A session and we'll be happy to interact with you live. Before I jump into my presentation, clearly today we are here to discuss about how cloud as a technology and solution has facilitated business during these COVID times. And it has not only been able to facilitate the businesses to survive, but also in many cases have created opportunities for businesses to innovate and thrive as well. Clearly, the current environment is unprecedented, at least in the modern times, what we have seen. And the disruption caused by COVID-19 pandemic has encouraged many companies to accelerate their journey towards cloud. And what's the reason? Clearly, the security and the business continuity it brings on the table. Uh, while as the pandemic started, many of the businesses, their immediate reaction was, or immediate response was how to continue their business. And their immediate objective was to have business continuity in place. However, very quickly, many of the companies, they grabbed these challenges and they created opportunities in the space likes of online retail, education, content, medicine. And suddenly these businesses are thriving who have been able to leverage the power of cloud and digital technologies which are available for them to look at their businesses upside down. It has given them the opportunities to actually use technologies like cloud as a pillar on which they can build their innovations on. And we can see that, I was reading today's newspaper, Walmart online, they have a record sale in the last quarter. Clearly, the fact that they've been able to quickly ramp up their online platforms for the business from management of the customer all the way till the delivery, because cloud allowed them to span up their business very quickly. I think clearly a testament of the capability of technologies like cloud, which I just spoke about, is the fact that today you and me are interacting on a digital platform instead of being a physical platform. Probably last year we have been doing these seminars on a 5-star hotels, inviting people physically, spending thousands of dollars. And today we are speaking on a digital platform like Zoom, which is hosted on a cloud somewhere all over the globe, which people like us can access digitally through just internet. I don't want to take away too much time because I would like you to ultimately hear from the experts like Deepak. So I will quickly let you know what Kalam, a quick background about Kalam, and then I will talk about in brief what Kalam has been doing in supporting businesses in accelerating their journey towards cloud. Again, Kalam has been here for the last 15 years. We started our journey in 2005. Don't want to take you through the whole slide. However, we are a player who started their journey in Bahrain as an internet service provider. And fast forward, in the last 5 years, we have done 4 acquisitions, 3 in Bahrain, 1 in Kuwait, which has made us a regional player. At the same time, if you see our journey, we started off as a telecom provider, and we quickly realized over a period of last 4 or 5 years that telecom operators, for them to survive in this business, they need to have their journey from telecommunication to technology. And we started focusing on managed solutions, which includes like cloud. We became Microsoft partner. We started software-defined WAN journey, artificial intelligence, IoT. So we started this journey so that we can be able to provide the latest technologies to our customers. We also, as to support these latest technology, you need your own infrastructure. Again, pleased to announce in 2020, just last quarter, we announced our own submarine cable system across the region. It's called NOT, Kalam Network Optical Transit System, which is going to connect 5 countries in GCC. 5 countries, we are connecting different data centers, approximately 10 data centers in GCC, which will again allow our enterprise customers to be able to access clouds, whether it is Microsoft, Amazon, private cloud, or even for that matter, applications which are hosted in these data centers without any limitation, with the lowest latencies. A quick note on a summary of Kalam. We have close to 3,000 plus customer base, 5 global offices. We are present 3 countries in Bahrain. We have offices in Singapore and London as well. International partnerships. We believed in creating partnerships because times are gone where you can create all solutions on your own. We believe in creating an ecosystem through partnerships. Vanago Cloud is one of it. I will speak more about some of our other partnerships. We have 130 staff spanned over these 5 offices. We invested in in training and hiring qualified experts, especially in the domains of new technologies like cloud, like WAN, like IoT. We started focusing on managed solutions. Again, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but the emphasis is that we as a technology provider, we want to make sure that our customers are focusing on their line of business, and the IT network application infrastructure is left to us for us to manage end to end with SLAs. We are now a cable owner, which has added a huge, given us a firepower, allowing us to not only bring huge amount of bandwidth or capacities to be able to bring to the customers, because as we know, in the current times, internet has become a pillar on which everything else, all other technologies are built on, whether it is cloud or artificial intelligence or the content or the applications, all sits on internet. And to be able to offer internet um, at the best price, as well as most of these application needs very specific latencies, and hence owning your own cable system which covers 6 to 7 countries, it's a great it has added a great as an asset to Kalam. Also, our data centers are PCIDS compliant, and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Over the past years, we have been recognized regionally as one of the fastest growing enterprise telecom player, and very proud to receive these awards, which basically recognize our contribution towards the enterprise community and supporting them in various solutions. As I mentioned about the managed solutions, our thought process always have been to create an ecosystem so that when our customers get into our ecosystem, they are able to get all the services with one single point of connect. Now, we focused on 5 managed solutions as a part of our ecosystem. One is clearly we are a telecom operator, internet, voice, international connectivity, data center services. These are traditional services. But how do we differentiate ourselves? That we offer end-to-end managed services for you, including their customers, where we manage their, provide them SLAs, and we manage their NOC and SOC as well. Their customers, they completely outsource their IT infrastructures to us, and we manage the services end-to-end with a predefined SLAs and support system. We have got 2 NOCs, one in Bahrain, one in Kuwait. So we are able to offer 24/7 NOC services, well diversified over different regions. The other pillar of this ecosystem is cloud and managed cloud, covering all the aspect of the services, whether it is infrastructure, backup, whether it is applications, DR. We brought in the best of the cloud partnership. On the private cloud front, we have partnered with Bonago. Again, we'll talk more about it. They're based in UAE, have 2 data centers. And of course, we can't ignore the public cloud as well, because every audience, every customer, we want to be agnostic when it comes to, in terms of solutions. We want customer to choose the best based on their environment. Whether it's a public cloud, in the public cloud, whether it is Amazon, whether it is Azure, or it is a private cloud, again, we have partnered with the best. Third suite of our managed solution is the managed communication solutions, where we have, of course, Office 365 has been there for a time, where we support the customers in migration and management. But at the same time, we partnered with an alternate to Office 365. If you have followed Kalam's journey, you would have noticed that iSwap is a global company. It's only company which is a true alternate to Office 365, which offers all and more features of 365 at a fraction of a cost. They have close to 100 million mailboxes globally, and their MENA data center is or MENA cloud is hosted in our data center in Bahrain. So very proud that their entire Middle East customers use Kalam's data center to access their email solutions. And we are currently working with Zoom to host their cloud in Bahrain so that the entire data and communications and video, it remains in Bahrain. Software-defined WAN. I think this term it's a very glamorous, fancy term which has been going around. You must have all heard over the last couple of years. We have been quite early into this technology. We launched it with Versa. It's in the Magic Quadrant. It's a US company in the Magic Quadrant. We were the first one to launch in the GCC. We have close to 300 plus circuits on Versa platform. And then as we moved along, we started making our software-defined platform vendor agnostic by bringing Viptela and Nuage from Nokia as well. But it allows the customers to have manage their WAN networks through cloud, centralized cloud. Don't need to have any access layer, and probably we'll have another detailed session about it as a part of our online webinar, where we'll speak more about it. But it is something which is allows the companies to centralize their WAN network and manage through cloud. Of course, in these times, you cannot ignore security. Security is something which, as we are moving ourselves over internet, over cloud, security is a key aspect. The hackers out there are getting smarter as technologies are getting smarter. And we have also invested in a 24/7 SOC, security as a service, and which allows us to provide detection and response services to the customers. And our SOC is based in Bahrain. We intend to make SOCs regionally. As I mentioned, we have got actually 5 data centers span over 3 countries, 2 data centers in Bahrain. We have met the regulatory guideline. 1 data center is in Seif. The other one is 10 kilometers away in Jasra. We are part of Equinix, which is the world's largest data center cloud in Dubai. And we are also in Smart Hub, which is Etisalat's data center. We being an operator in Kuwait, we also have a data center in Kuwait. It allows us to offer customers quite a diversified regional agnostic hosting services and backup services, whereby they want to host or they want to have resiliency not only within the country, outside the countries as well. I just mentioned before that we launched a cable system. This is the only terrestrial cable system in the region. Terrestrial means it's a cable which is not under the sea. Currently, Kalam's infrastructure is present across 15 countries, with a sweet spot being Middle East. Our story here is we are able to connect Middle East like no one else in the region. There's no other telecom operator who has such an extensive infrastructure like we have in these countries. If you see on the screen, you have got white lines and green line. The green line is the new NOT cable system, whereby the GCC countries we have covered through our own infrastructure. Now, slowly our intention is to increase this green line to all other countries and extend to the Middle Eastern network. What does it mean for our customer? It means that now you will have an access to different countries like UAE data centers, like Saudi data centers, like Europe, through least latency routes. As you're all into the technology and IT field, you know that most of the applications are latency sensitive. So at the moment, we're very proud to announce we can offer you sub 90 milliseconds from Bahrain all the way to London, which there is no other cable system which can offer you less than 90 milliseconds to London or Frankfurt for that matter. We can connect from Bahrain to Dubai at 5 milliseconds. By the way, this cable is also connected to the Amazon data center in Bahrain. So we are on net. We have our own fiber to the Amazon data center, which also allows us to connect. And our partner Vanago, which is based in Dubai, Equinix, this cable system also lands in Equinix. So Vanago Cloud is on net to us, our own cable system. Again, without going into detail, we currently serve 3,000 plus customers. In Bahrain, we are the second largest operator in terms of enterprise clients after the incumbent. And we have got customers across every segment. We cover from very large corporates, banking segments, to government and ministries, to education, hospitality, and you name a segment, we have customers in there. And the base has been growing consistently. As I mentioned in the beginning, that these are the times, COVID times, where the digital journey has suddenly been has sprouted up very significantly. People have started accepting the new norm of reaching out with each other's digitally on digital forums. So we started this digital summit series where we want to reach out to our customers, business customers, business CIOs, CTOs, head of infrastructure, IT managers, so that we can share with them what are the journeys which we have undertaken on the technology field. And we want to share with you our experiences, case studies, what's new happening on the different technologies. We picked up 4 different technologies which we will be having our summit in the next 4 months. Obviously, the today is our launch pad. We're starting with cloud, given the fact it's a very relevant discussion. So we in August we are starting with Vanago. We will also have Amazon and Azure discussions. We will also have iSwap. These are all cloud-based discussions. We will follow it in September with software-defined WAN. Again, with different technology partners. In October, we are looking at remote working solutions like Office 365 and Zoom. And in November, we're looking at security. We'll be focusing on SOC and Sophos endpoint security solutions. I think I have taken a little bit extra time. I'll take a few more minutes and then I'll hand over to Deepak. Quickly, I mean, needless to mention why people are moving towards cloud because of the cost effectiveness it brings on the table, agility, scalability to manage the operations very quickly. Obviously, security, cloud-based security is a very powerful tool, which is making it more, giving the confidence to businesses so that they can move in the cloud and allowing you to do innovation. I think one aspect I wanted to touch base, probably you will all have experience. And this is where I want to speak from my own Kalam's experience. When this pandemic started and we were mandated to work from home, Kalam was able to, from day one, I remember 13th of March, till last week, we have been 100% working from home. Not a single day our staff came to office. For the reason being, what facilitated us to work from home 100% was the fact that our CRM, our ERP system, our HRMS, our email communication system, our network, everything is on the cloud. Our contact center solution, we are hosting everything on the cloud. Now it tells you how powerful it is once you're able to work and access remotely. Of course, to need to do that, you should be able to manage and have to plan how you can move your systems on the cloud. Again, I'll be quick here. These are some of the examples we realized in the last 4 or 5 months, how different industry segments have taken, I won't say taken advantage of situation, but they have used the opportunity to reinvent and find a way to reach out to their customers in the most effective way. You have examples like Beware app was launched in few days time, again, cloud-based app, and you can monitor the people with COVID symptoms. Doctory, you can they have access to the most of the National Health Authority, and you can access the services. Same as in education, remote learning, content. Again, the likes of Netflix and Prime, why they are able to bring so much of content on the table, because they have hosted huge amount of their content on the cloud, and the operators like us have supported them in huge bandwidth so that they can offer these content seamlessly. You have got food companies who are Talabats and all, who are able to offer services and expand with SLAs to the customers because they're hosted on the cloud. I already mentioned to it that as Kalam, we are public and private cloud offerings, and we offer the services from end to end consultation all the way to the managed services. Sorry, I'm running it quick because I want to hand it over to Deepak. Again, we believe that our strength in cloud is major cloud partnerships, a very good ecosystem so that we can manage you end to end, all kind of applications, services, and partnerships. We have invested in certified engineers. We offer fixed billing, unlike the public cloud where your billing is variable and you don't get a visibility of your billing. While with us and with Vanago, we are able to offer fixed billing. You have a complete visibility of your billing. Compliance, we are a PCI-DSS compliance data centers all over the 3 countries, 24/7 knock, and we have done really well along with Vanago Cloud in the region. As you can see that we are able to move some of the large corporates like Ahli United Bank, Investcorp, Stirad, these are banking customers. Then we have got Vaikal Moed, one of the largest family businesses around, schools, Ramses, again an engineering company, hospital, Ibn Nafis, from backup as a service, from data center, from infrastructure as a service. We moved their servers to the cloud to connect them to Amazon data centers. So I think we have been able to support many corporates on the cloud. Sorry, I took a little bit more time, but now I hand it over to my dear friend Deepak. As I mentioned, he's the founder of Fanago, and I think his job is today to take you to Cloud 9. Deepak, over to you.
Thank you, Veer. Fascinating journey. And before I just quickly log on, I think you've covered a fair degree of length on the cloud, and that kind of takes the journey forward fairly quickly. So you made my job a little easier. Just give me 1 second. I'm just sharing the screen. A very quick introduction, and thank you for joining this event today. This is the first of the event what Veer had mentioned, and I think rightly said. Businesses which were sitting on the fence for a very, very long time, COVID-19 has given them the opportunity to tip themselves and start to reinvent their businesses more closely. So very brief introduction about me. I've got about 25 years of experience, worked with some very large banks in the world. I've worked in Switzerland, I worked in India, I worked in the Middle East, understood the cultures here and how the businesses operate. That gives me a lot of understanding. And back in the years 2004, I had established a system integration business. So we've been here long enough. That business grew to a substantial amount before we exited it and started our cloud journey, and I'll take you through that. And then also recently, like everything else, we've also started last mile delivery business, which kind of supports the ecosystem of cloud. So what is Vanago? I mean, I'll jump into straight away the presentation and talk about it more in depth as we move along on the slides. The caption that I brought up on the for everybody to see is businesses are now born digitally, and that literally means now that businesses which had the old school traditional business model of setting up a brick and mortar. Once they had set up the brick and mortar, they would then invest in buying technology which could now be hosted onto their own premises, basis of the next 3-year, 5-year run of the business. So which essentially meant a lot of capex was spent on acquiring the assets, which did not necessarily related with the business per se, but then they had invested in it for customers to have a 5-year vision, and then they take this forward as businesses grew. Fast forward this to about 2017, when I think globally on the horizon you could see that online businesses were becoming more popular. One of the very early popular businesses that I can talk about is Uber, which came in and kind of opened a different vista for the entire business to look at in a shared model. And when I take the example of Uber, it changed the way taxis were run globally, and Uber quickly became the largest taxi company without owning a single cab. The backbone of this entire business model was obviously cloud, because they were hosted in different data centers, and they could quickly, based on proof of concept, they could quickly enlarge this business conversation globally. So the example could be that they started in San Francisco back in 2008, but if they had to launch this in Dubai, and if they were in the original traditional format, they would have to set up the office, buy hardware, set it up. They quickly came in, ramped up some servers on the data centers locally, and they were available. And at last count, they've reached about 180 odd countries and 680 plus cities, where they become the way to ride. So what it kind of tells you is that businesses are now born completely digitally. Nobody really, or no business is really in the future, and this journey is about 20 years old. In 20, if I can just take this journey slightly back to 2000, the journey was mobile phones were getting introduced, everything was hardware, and people were on-prem, to 2020, where everything has moved away. And some of these technologies that we called innovative in 2000 have become old technologies, so to speak. So so mobile phones have become like a commodity today, and what you host on that mobile phone becomes really relevant. So the Uber app sits on your mobile phone, and that makes the journey exciting, because now your mobile phones survive because they've got this classic case where you could actually browse through very, very quickly and run your daily chores, your businesses, etc., through your handheld device. And that's where the caption, businesses are now born digitally. If you don't do that today, the future looks very difficult. You're fighting against odds. I bring you to the next slide, and basically I found it very, very interesting. And this was the on the left that you see is the typical boardroom that was across the world, where the board would typically say that digital transformation is many years ago, and companies don't necessarily need to change very, very quickly, even though some of the changes were visible. And then comes COVID-19 like a hard rock, hitting every business. Like Veer had mentioned, he was away for almost 100 days or more without operating from the office. COVID-19 comes in, and all the businesses which had no plans were obviously taken out. They did not know what hit them, and they were scrambling to kind of get a practice up and running. What Wanago came in and did for many customers locally was they, people who had been the early adopters, they could quickly ramp up and move away from offices and operate from home. What we launched something called work from home in the month of March. Our first business use case itself was on March 22nd, when the first customer was an insurance client who came in and said they cannot operate because insurance business is managing risk, and this was too much of a risk for them to operate out of their own premises. So they went on-prem, and they reached out. And on 22nd of March, when the pandemic had not even started off, we built the services for them. And effectively from there on, they've been operating from home or work, whichever way, hybrid in today's environment. But they significantly managed their risk in such a way that it mitigated the risk of not operating for a fair bit of time. And being an insurance company, it also was important for them to showcase that disruption did not, impacted them. So this becomes a very powerful starting point. If you're a business today, you need to be very, very aware that the business risk paradigm has changed forever. It's no longer the old school where the businesses will have the time to tweak around, look at their business differently. Today, they need to take proactive measures, and they need to define what needs to be done. So, this is an open question. This goes out to every customer today, different industry, different verticals. Organizations need to start looking at internally more closely their processes, their products, their services, their markets, and define if they could survive this extinction, which has impacted the entire globe, not necessarily a particular region, but the entire globe. The growth has come to its knees, and companies have to reinvent, and reinvention meant that they had to do things very, very differently. So I've kind of put together a few verticals here, which talks about different industries. And this problem is for the leaders in these organizations. These are board members, these are finance heads, these are CIOs, CTOs, IT managers. everybody who's in that decision-making space, they need to start looking at what is the problem that they're facing today and quickly find a solution. And if I look at the industries that I mentioned here, consumer durables, healthcare, education, shopping, all of these industries have started to change so dramatically that businesses have to look at, what they need to do and quickly reinvent. Obviously, the drivers of these businesses, and these are the modern drivers. You've got IoT, which supports devices or handheld devices of the healthcare. You've got 5G, which pushes the shopping cart online. If a customer who's downloaded a particular app and wants to shop online, and if the app does not deliver, let's say, the screen in 3 seconds or less, you have an abandoned cart. So obviously the business need to start looking at how do they solve this particular problem. And obviously all of this data that the online shopping portals are taking, machine learning and artificial intelligence need to work on algorithms and start to provide results so that they could do more sales. And this is where, cut across consumer durables to shopping online, you've got every industry which has got impacted, and they've now got to look at how they can reinvent. And the beauty of this whole piece is we sit right in the middle of the things. So when you talk about machine learning, when you talk of IoT, you got to talk of speed and the vendors. All of this needs to sit on a modern infrastructure which can support all of these elements. So we come in as the feeder to this entire. So now if you put this upside down, if you are in one of these industries and you were to look at solving a problem inside your organization that impacts your industry, you obviously need to first look at the drivers and then look at where do you host it so that you can have an immediate response. You don't have to wait for things to happen and quickly get into a situation where the business has moved on, considering the risks that are prevalent in the industry. Now, if I were to classify some of the risks that COVID-19 has given out and what has been the overwhelming result that most customers have said, the shout out is very loud. Everybody overlooked the disaster management part of it. Customers were not ready. And 87% of those customers are today saying, we need to mitigate this risk and we need to have disaster planning. So disaster recovery as a service kind of sits nicely on a data center, and you could adopt those services so that your businesses do not get impacted. The other piece, the first two pieces that I wanted to mention, the other piece is remote working tools. Like I gave you the example, we had an insurance company which early in the days, adopted remote working tools. They could go live. This has now become or snowballing into a global phenomenon. I'll share a little stat here with you. The global practice of work from home pre-COVID period was about 15%. This is a global stat. So customers in the Western world are adopting work from home right back then. And post-COVID, as the impact came through bigger, almost 100% of the businesses were operating out of their homes and trying to do business. Obviously, there was a struggle for about a week, 2, 3, depending on where your organization sits. But at the end of the day, people found ways and tools to kind of move away and start to operate from home. And in the new world, and I'm saying now from here, where the shock of COVID-19 is receding, but the impact is humongous, 40% are set to remain at home and work from home. So which essentially means bring your own device, which was the culture about 5 years ago, where you could actually physically bring in a device to your work and start to work. It's moved from there to your own place as well. So the paradigm has moved. And if this paradigm has moved and you've got your set of infrastructure that you need to manage, you need these tools, you need the access, you need these controls, which can help you, breach these boundaries and seamlessly operate from wherever you are. In this, the security element plays a very, very important role. So some of our vendors who work with us very closely bring in these technologies whereby you could work with them remotely wherever you go. Very recently, SonicWall, one of the vendors, which we work with on a global level, they've come up with a technology where the firewall could be, given as a service. So you don't need to physically now invest in a firewall. And through that, we give you a remote session in your home seamlessly with policies laid out. That makes life so much easier because the IT manager and the business wants to mitigate the risk and not hand over the entire network to the client, which is their own employees. And when this client or this employee moves to a different region on work, the agent on the firewall sits in his machine and he clicks that button, it logs on to the cloud wherever he's there, in which country, and he connects to our cloud in the data center, and he's got the same protection. So mobility and use of remote working combined together has become a great opportunity to look at. We've got one customer who's based out of, he's a global company based out of US, and they have a large enterprise in Singapore. And we had a call with them last week, and they're looking to do remote working on the same lines, and they've got 220,000 users, and Singapore operations and the Asia operations about 15,000, and they wanted to deploy this technology, which is work in motion. So you can see very large organizations who are looking to adopt these kind of technologies because they can foretell now that this is the way forward. The other aspect that you need to look at is your employees. Most of the organizations are, worried about business as usual, and this is where the plans are very reactive for them. So what matters is your employees, which are your, essentially gold, if I can say, because they produce, and that's how the businesses flourish. And you give them the tools, they then, take it up to the next level. So the very important element that post-COVID would come into place is reskilling of workforce. So the workforce that we originally had a certain way of operating. Now you put COVID on top of this, and then you bring in the millennials who will join the workforce now in the next 3-4 years, their work culture, and put all of this together, the old, the new, and the pandemic hit. Put all of this in a perspective, and you realize that customers today will need to reskill their workforce in such a way that they can be utilized more efficiently, and they know what they're doing from there. And all of this needs a very heavy dose of tech-enabled ecosystem, which essentially means that the customer or the client or the employee has a seamless experience, but at the same time, he's enabled in such a way that wherever he's operating from, whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's in a coffee shop, everything is seamless. And that's how, once you've enabled all of this and all put the latest drivers in place, this is your new work culture. So if you look up the arrow right on the top, you've got to put all of these agendas. There have been a lot of conversations around artificial intelligence. There's a lot of conversation around machine learning. All of this now, from now for the next 5, 7, 8, 10 years, will be center of the business. So if you're still brick and mortar, if you still built, traditionally, if your employees are still unskilled, or rather not skilled as per the current ecosystem, you will fall behind. So bring them back into the current environment and pull them to take it to the next will drive the business. So these elements become very, very essential for you to look at. Some other simpler questions that I pose for everyone here is, which I today call traditional in nature, are end-of-life events. This relates to when your current inventory is reaching end of life. You've got this rack stack of servers sitting in your data center, which is now reaching its end of life. So you need to start planning and looking at things differently and telling them that now we need to refresh this. So that becomes another element of choosing why cloud. Business acquisitions. So now you're agile, your business has adopted the latest technologies, and you're acquiring businesses. We obviously is continuously acquiring businesses, in the region, and that tells you these acquisitions need to be very nimble, and hence you can't be saying that I've built everything on-prem and this will help me facilitate. Once the new business comes on board, they bring in their own set of new challenges. They bring in their new set of requirements. So you can't plan that on the fly. So that again is an area which helps from a cloud perspective. Compliance and security risk, two of the biggest elements. And if you really look at an organization structure today, most of the organizations have a IT team, which is, I would say, not extremely large. Either you would have an application engineer, you would have maybe sysadmins in place, or you will have maybe one security engineer at best. So if you really look at it, organizations are not skilled or do not have so many technically skilled people in the organization to give you the foolproof security, or also talk about compliance in that sense. When you move all of these assets into a tier 4 data center, which is ISO 27001 certified, you're already taken a leap of faith and moved into a far more secure environment, which kind of helps you drive your business even better. Capacity requirement, of the future, I don't even need to mention this anymore. The capacity requirements of future have kind of blown away from COVID, because nobody today knows whether the business will sustain, the business model will change, or what is the future in 3 or 5 years is looking like. If anybody had that, magic wand and they could predict now, I think that's all disappeared. Every research papers have been trashed. So capacity requirements have gone out of the window as well. Software and hardware refresh, number of softwares that, customers have been used to buying and renewing on an annual basis, whether they're using it or not. Hardware refresh, generation 7 moving to generation 8, patching them, all of this refresh cycles move into the back end. You don't need to be doing this, any of this purposes, these works. You need to be focused on your business. And the biggest element which, COVID-19 has brought in is, focus on saving every dollar that you have and spending so wisely for your business. So what you do is you don't put all your money in technology. Technology enablement is available on pay as you go or pay as you scale. And that helps you conserve a lot of cash, make your organization work and the capital work for you. So these are some of these big questions which are open-ended. And I think it's public knowledge. Everybody knows that this is where, these questions need to be asked, whether it's the board or at the decision-making level. And that's how your business moves forward. As we speak today, we've got now 2 data centers in Dubai, which are operational since 2017. And the latest one came live in July, when a new anchor customer, a large developer, property developer, came on board. So today we've got 2 pods, we call them pods, have come on board in Dubai. We've got 1 pod which is in a partner agreement in Mumbai, India, which has gone live. And then we're looking at another one coming in Saudi in the next quarter. So we will cover this region nicely and we will offer these services from these pods. Some of the people have asked me this question, so I like this slide a lot. And the reality is, the smallest of the organizations, and I call them tiny because they're less than 10 employees, and not tiny because they're small, but tiny because they've got major plans. Uber was tiny at some point of time, and today it's one of the largest organizations. So the e-commerce business falls in that category. The startup falls into that category. Have adopted cloud. They've got up to 7 products that they've adopted to. And then on the far end is your enterprise, which is 1,000+ employees, which have got over 27 products. So if you look at across the board, customers have gone from literally 0 in 2015 to about 27 or more products on the cloud and growing. There was a stat somewhere that I was reading, which says that there are at least 8,000 new SaaS companies which are formed in a month, and they keep adding to the existing 26,000, 30,000 that exist. So it tells you the direction globally has shifted from, on-prem digital, on-prem to completely digital. The old war horses of, HPs, Dells of the world have gone into the data centers. They do not want to sell one server at a time. They want to sell services through a cloud provider. This is where, the major shift is going to happen. And, again, by showcasing this, it also tells you that the tiniest or the smallest of the businesses have adopted cloud. I'd like to thank Microsoft in doing that education a fair bit, because they came in with O365, and I was sitting with one of their top exec in Atlanta, and they had mentioned back in the year 2013 to me that they're launching this cloud services for Office 365, and fascinating spreadsheets of how the business changed. And, they had predicted that 70% of their business will move to cloud by 2018. And I think they would have hit those marks. So it tells you a large global organization changed from, once buying Nokia hardware company, buying or making laptops and so on and so forth, to a completely software in the cloud company. So if that's the shift, decisively, everybody needs to start looking at that shift happening. What do we bring to the table? It's a very simple, solution that we bring to the table. We've got a private cloud, and I will talk about private and public cloud very briefly in one of the slides in future, in one of the slides ahead. But we are a private cloud, so we essentially give you a fully managed service. You tell me a problem, our engineers are capacitized, they understand the needs of moving from on-prem to cloud. We hold the hand, We understand your requirement. We take you to the cloud. The whole journey is seamless and you go live. And this is what the private cloud really does. It's fully managed and it helps you transition from on-prem to virtualized environment in the cloud. So this is what we offer through our pods. I call this e-commerce business as well. It took me about 6-8 months to get our payment gateway online. And that made sense because everything has to be digitally done as we move forward. When I was speaking to the banks, the scenario was they thought e-commerce was selling flowers, online. And now the scenario is moved away from that to where customers can today buy physical servers online, put it in the card, and from the card they could go to the payment gateway, and from there at the end they could get their services up and running very, very quickly. So e-commerce has become very, very important. Another element of e-commerce is all the softwares that you today own. We've got a solution in the cloud where we warehouse these softwares, and on the time of the maturity or the renewal, we actually give you the option of either adopting cloud or renewing that software, which is Revital, renewal as a service that we offer. And we've started tying up with global vendors. We've got Microsoft direct partnership. We are CSP direct with them, which essentially means in this whole region, there are maybe 2 MS direct partners. We are one of them. So you could actually come in and say, I want to add one more seat on my Microsoft, or I want to delete 20 more. You could do that on the fly. So that gives the e-commerce platform, for the customers. Subscription is a very powerful element. In the good old days, pre-COVID, or even a little earlier than that, the proof of concept was the way to move forward when you were buying your IT equipment. So this vendor would come in very shiny. They would bring in a partner who would come and do a proof of concept to a very small element of your business requirement. This POC, and you must think like this, your POC was targeted to be closed within a period of 1 week so that not too many questions are asked. And because these POCs were done in a short period of time, and once the customer issued the purchase order, the transfer of risk of buying that equipment moved from the vendor to the partner to you, which essentially meant that now you had to make sure that the services or the product worked for you, the services were integrated well, and that struggle continued. And if you did not get enough good skills from your partner, you will end up refreshing that hardware quite regularly. That piece moves away completely when it's subscription as a service. And the simplest example that I can quote here is Netflix. Netflix does exactly that. What brings to the table is you could just go online, click to the app, and you buy that service. If you don't like it, you cancel that subscription. This is exactly what cloud does to you. You don't need to do very long drawn, proof of concepts. You have to basically name what you want to, start small, and then grow from there. And every service has to give you value. If it gives you value at a very, very good price efficient points, you're happy to continue. And the biggest element is the risk is not yours. The customer does not bear the risk of transfer. So in traditional, if you were setting up maybe a rack of 8 or 10 servers and a few other elements, you were spending 250,000 to 500,000 dirhams or local currency equivalent. And then it was a struggle for you to kind of move that. Today, the subscription starts as low as 250 dirhams or 25 Bahraini dinars, and you can start those services very, very quickly. The last element is supporting the private cloud journey, which is the help desk and assurance services. And this is very, very essential because today the customer is busy in what they are doing. They're planning ahead. The IT managers got time now to future-proof their businesses and start to plan ahead. They need a robust help desk and assurance services. What this brings to the customer also is that peace of mind that if tomorrow there is a problem, we've got a help desk that we can reach out to and they'll solve my issues. So all in all, if you look at it, the solution is very tight and we offer a bunch of services from there. This is what the customer today is really looking at. And I've summarized them in about 5 points, and I compare Netflix and Monaco in the same breath. The sizes could be different, but the essential reason of people adopting subscription is the following. It needs to constantly bring that ongoing value. You can't be saying today that, I bought this server 2-3 years ago, we didn't patch it, now the performance is going down. No, it doesn't work like that anymore. So you need to have an ongoing value that that server gives you constantly. If you don't like it, you cancel it. The experience has to be memorable. You should not be in a situation where constantly you're under the struggle to manage that. The experience continues in such a way that you recommend and also enhance your current services to others. On-demand fulfillment is the COVID-19 example. The scenarios arrived, a pandemic happened, and you should be ready to fulfill that demand on the fly. And that's on-demand fulfillment for you. Anywhere real time, the example that I gave you was of the firewall as a service, where if you're moving into countries or from home, today you don't need to physically deploy a firewall and then maintain the services and renewals, etc. You just have the hosted firewall and an agent sitting on the machine, and you're constantly, wherever you're operating, you're connected securely and personalized, which essentially means that at any point of time you have a problem, you pick up the phone or raise a ticket and the problems get mitigated. I think this kind of summarizes where the cloud is headed. It's like how you today consume power, which about 100 years ago, every factory had a power station below. Today, you don't need to do that. You switch on the button, and what happens is you've got the power running in, and you've got lights or power generated. Technology should also be consumed in a similar fashion. It might take a few more years, but I think that is becoming more the norm, and this is where the future lies. This is generally the size of the GCC market based on Gartner's prediction over the next few years. We've kind of looked at the enterprises that we wanted to focus on, and you're looking at close to 900,000 to 1 million companies who form in this bracket that we're obviously talking to. And when you look at the $4,300, this is the kind of subscription that a normal small to medium enterprises would typically spend, and the opportunity is growing very, very large from here. This brings me to the products that we offer today, and these are our own labor of work. We created these products. We spoke to a lot of vendors globally. We picked up a lot of those technologies. We brought in some of our own skills, put them together, and then we offered them as a service. So essentially, our business model revolves around 3 core areas. We've got infrastructure as a service, we've got backup as a service, and we've got security as a service. These are the 3 elements on which an enterprise today builds itself, and we're not touching the applications yet. These areas being taken, we created, about 7 or 8 different SKUs, which essentially became our services when we went into the market. Just to kind of take you back slightly here, when I launched the services in 2017 and we spoke about digital transformation, people could not understand. When I spoke about cloud adoption, people would look out of the window and say, there are no clouds in our part of the world. What are you guys talking about? So I had to go back on the drawing board. We created a bunch of services. And when we launched this in Q2 of 2017, almost instantly people resonated and saw the demand or saw the need for these services to come in play. Now, all of these products are mature. We've got a number of customers, over 200 plus customers who've taken these services and growing rapidly. And our partners, Kalam, is so able in this journey with us that they've constantly, on a daily basis, we're churning customers and mitigating their needs. So please reach out to Kalam for any of the product requirements, and they can take you through any and each one of them in greater detail and talk about what they do. But in a very larger sense, Copia, which is backup as a service, we take care of every backup needs. Duplicato is your disaster recovery, which I think most of the organizations did not plan, but today are actively looking to do. Controllo is the firewall that I mentioned earlier, and Archivo becomes an important element when you want to archive a lot of your data, and then you need a place to store that. Securo became security, your antivirus on the cloud, not necessarily on your prem anymore, is the security service, and Hostess becomes the infrastructure. So between all of them, majority of the needs of the customers are today met, and we keep adding more solutions to this. Revital is our renewal as a service, which I had mentioned briefly earlier, where if you were having a backup service or a backup done through any of these softwares like Veeam or Veritas or what have you, and at the time of maturity, we can give you both options. Either you renew that service through our platform, or B, look at the alternative now. Instead of doing the refresh, you move into a cloud services. So that kind of helps you define your strategy also. So we align this Revital as a very, very important element in our business. one question that I get asked, and I put a special slide for this, the difference between a public and a private cloud. And very clearly, what a public cloud and what a private cloud does, I'll put this very simplistically. So, treat a public cloud like a large hypermarket. So you're talking of a Carrefour. You as a customer walk in with your trolley, and there are racks out there which you need to pick and drop the items. So what you do in a public cloud, there are 29 to 30,000 products which need to be picked up carefully and racked and stacked and connected, which requires a humongous amount of skill set. That's what public cloud does. So if you're a Johnson and Johnson, great, you've got 30 data centers globally which are now coming end of life, and you don't want to refresh them. You go to a public cloud, you tell Amazon where all these data centers are, and if they have it, then you push all the workloads there, have a crack team inside which is skilled enough to manage that cloud. That's your public cloud consumption. It works brilliantly. What a private cloud does is very, very different. It's a limited number of SKUs. So like I said, we've got 8 or 10 SKUs, and we've got a marketplace where we keep adding, based on demand from the customers. We manage it very, very closely. So we already have a managed security layer. You already have perimeter security covered for you. You don't need to invest in those elements. And we give you your own lands, your own, areas of landing, which kind of secures the environment, protected and completely, secure access. And then this is through dedicated customers who are today saying, no, I don't want to be far away from, your current location. I want to be more here. So we are more the 7-Elevens, the neighborhood store who will look at all your requirements. You pick up the phone, you tell us to deliver this, we should be able to deliver that. A simple example I'll give you, a lot of the customers in our part of the world operate on a software in financial called Tally. One of our customer is in distribution of mobile phones globally, 27 countries. They had adopted Microsoft technology on the ERP. They spent about 700,000 dirhams doing it, thinking that they could migrate their people onto adopting, Microsoft technologies for their entire ERP on financial services. But because these people were largely based out of Africa, they were not skilled to use that. They had to trash that, and they moved back into using Tally. And Tally at that point of time, and I'm talking 3 years ago, was not a mobile application. So our teams went back on the drawing board, did some R&D, got the Tally up on the cloud. Today, 3 years later, they use Tally across their 27 offices globally, right from Hong Kong going into US, and absolutely no issues for the last 3 years. So we can bring in those tailored solutions, let's say, on the cloud, which help you adopt cloud far more effectively versus, when you talk about public cloud, which is a Carrefour. So I think that is a clear distinction. We both operate parallelly. Our railroads are running parallelly. We do a certain segment, they do a certain segment. We meet somewhere when the application is in the cloud to be hosted or is already hosted. We meet somewhere to create a hybrid cloud. So I think the elements of public, private, and hybrid coexist as an ecosystem. Now our partnership with Wanago and Kalam started about almost a year ago. We did a great round of discussions between me and Veer. We had a round of discussion. He's got this vision of taking the customers digitally completely. He liked the concept. He understood what cloud really meant. That was kind of the starting point. We had a go ahead from his office, and from there on, we trained the staff at Kalam Telecom, which is one of the finest that I've met. And these guys have today decidedly taken over the mantle of taking their customers wholeheartedly into the cloud, and successfully. Over the last, I would say about 3 quarters and fourth, the number of qualified opportunities that we're working with them is exceeding 70, 75, and number of customers who kind of embraced. I mentioned a few logos here. They've kind of taken this journey forward with their customers. And I think now we're enlarging this whole conversation to cover the GCC region, which is talking about Bahrain, Kuwait, and Saudi in the near future. One of the case studies that I wanted to bring here was Ramses. This was sometimes, I think in the second or third quarter of last year, where, Mrs. Rehab Hassan came in and she wanted to, talk about cloud adoption. And they had done a bit of adoption through Azure. And there was a little discomfort there. Mrs. Rehab is here with us on the platform, and if I can ask her to kind of give her experience, that would be very, very nice, and it would kind of educate from a customer side. And I believe that she's happy with our services. Mrs. Rehab, can I hand it over for you?
Yes, hi.
Hi there. So yeah, I mean, the audience is yours.
Okay, I just want to say hi to everyone that are in the meeting, and I just want to talk an overview about our experience with Wanago Cloud, and yeah, what an experience in terms of different things. When we went to Kalam, the first project was about the iSwarp emails. And it was a very successful project where we have reduced the cost a lot. So we were chatting in our next meetings about the cloud challenges that we were facing. We were on the cloud itself, but with the different companies, and we were having challenges with the cost and the performance and the unfixed bills that we were receiving every month. It was not a clear plan, and we didn't know exactly what were our needs exactly. It was like they took our local servers and they just put it on the cloud. So the migration and everything, it was not successful because it was not studied on our case. But when we went to Kalam, the team was very, very helpful. The Kalam and Wanago as well, when they took our requirements and they study even our structure and what are the applications and the softwares that we need to put, what are our documents and files, the sizes, and the way that we operate. Everything was contributing and putting the plan and putting the knives. And yeah, we have decided to go with Wanago, where we have reduced around half of the price that we were paying in the other cloud services. And I just want to say thank you for the continuous support. We were having 24-hour support, even in the holidays and weekends, if something happened, if something just an emergency. So the staff was always there, and the performance was something great. Our performance has risen up a lot, and we get a better feedback from all of our users because we took very high specification servers with lower cost as well. So the full migration plan was around 1 week, and the staff were providing us a full system just exactly as we were. There was not a lot of changes. Even some of the users didn't notice the change, and even Kalam, they gave us a different options, like different cloud options, and we took what is suitable for us. And if you can allow Hassan, my hardware engineer, to talk about, he will give you more technical details, as he was the person who's working on the migration task. So he's with us now, so if you can allow him to talk. And thank you.
Feel free. Please feel free, Mrs. Rehab. You can pass on, for your engineer, hardware engineer to,
he's not with me in the office, so but he's with us in the meeting. So if you can give him the option to talk.
I think the video is open. The participation is open. If you could call him out and he could start.
Okay, sure. I will call him.
So as you know, while he joins and explains, but as you can see, a very large engineering firm which was going on the public cloud, the understanding was scant, the deployment was expensive, and lack of local skills made the entire process very unhappy. And that's what I brought in the earlier slides, and I mentioned that the customers really looking at price points, very, very essential, and more so now. The other thing is continuous support and continuous journey that they could, come in and, experience the solution firsthand. And I think that is why the journey has been so exciting. And I'm happy that, Mrs. Rehab has mentioned some very kind words, and she did experience the same quality of service that a public cloud offers, and we could replicate the same services.
Yeah, and I can pass also the management feelings about the whole experience. It was very successful, and even the management was happy about the full transformation because, as we said, we cut the cost and we get a better performance. So it was a successful experiment that we did, and we didn't regret the movement and everything. The only challenges or the fears that we were having is about moving the data, migrations, our databases and application. We were afraid that something will be lost in between or something will be changed, but it was a very smooth process and everyone was giving their full support and everyone was calibrated. So yeah, I just like the full concept and the full team effort that they put in our project.
Much appreciate your kind word. Is your engineer there, or should I continue?
Yes, he's here. Hassan, if you can speak out.
Yes, hi everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. Actually, I want to thank Kalam Telecom for introduce for us Wanago Cloud, and thank you Wanago for that this option for us. Actually, we are very happy with Wanago because it was a good experience with us. Actually, we got big change in our system, like is coming very fast, and also the support is we got at time that support. The performance for the servers was very good. Like we got the cost effective with double performance for the server. So everything is working fine. Everything is good for us. And thank you again, Kalam, and thank you, Wanago.
Thank you, Hassan, so much. Thanks for your kind words. And nothing is better than a customer vouching with you and agreeing to the journey and working together very closely. And I think it's a happy journey over the last 3 quarters. And I wish you all the best as we move forward. Thank you, Mrs. Rivab, as well for your contribution here.
Yeah, thank you. And actually, we are very happy with the support that we got from Wanago. So at any time we contact them, they reply us with the support. And at night, at morning, at every time when we contact them, they support us in that time.
Great. Thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.
So moving on, I've also mentioned here, where do we stack up and what do we bring to the table for our customers? And I've kind of openly mentioned who our competition is and what it does. So we are on the far right, like the magic quadrant of Gartner. We are a digital company completely. We've got a payment gateway in place. We sell through only channel partners. We don't work directly. So we've got able partners in different locations. Kalam is one of our able partners that completely handles our journey in Bahrain. We cover UAE and GCC in total. The price points are extremely attractive. We make sure and we understand customers need effective price points. It's not about charging or overcharging the customers on every point. Give them a good price for them to have stickiness. We offer that, and we've got a very global outlook. Like I mentioned earlier, we're looking to now expand into different geographies. This is where we belong. We've got our competitors on the left, which is business, where they started off early in the life, and they largely focus on website hosting. And then we've got Bias Middle East, which is operating out of Dubai and focus on DR as one of their key elements. Non-digital company focuses directly with customers and UAE based only. And then we have our dear public cloud companies, which to me, are very attractive for very large organizations for several reasons. And like I said, on the application development side or large distributed architecture or global offices, public cloud plays a great role. And then that's where the hybrid strategy really works. They are obviously completely digital. They are pricey, and that's a matter of fact because they're a global company. They can't pass on those benefits of pricing. And they've got skills which can be bought at a very expensive price. and they focus largely on very large enterprises. So we have a nice little spot for ourselves, and I think that spot is growing with our customer base. Some of the advantages that we bring to the table, and I can mention it to you, is we are at least 40% cheaper compared to public clouds and some of the other clouds in the region, which kind of makes it very, very attractive for you to look at us as an option. We provide 4 nines over the last 3.5 years or 3 years. We've not had a downtime, and we continue to offer top of the line, services. With Kalam, we've got a redundancy line also now up. So which means if tomorrow there is an undersea cable which has got disconnected or some issues on the internet, we've got, customer having the uptime depending on what is the SLA that we've agreed with the client. Even if the SLAs don't exist for redundancies, we still ensure that the customer does not suffer too much, and we make sure that they have this support. And the 24/7, this is something that we're bringing new to the region. We are right now in that planning phase, and I'm very pleased to announce that we will soon be moving to a 24/7 support with a dedicated line. And you could pick up the phone and then talk to somebody or log a ticket, and somebody should be available to support you on a support desk. So these are our key elements. This is where we are working to enhance the quality of our customer experience. Some of our customer logos, they cut across different industries, and more so you've got a pharmacy, a logistics company, a video making company, global players like Pearson's. Everybody's kind of being part of the journey. We don't really sectorally define it or distribute. We cut across every industry, and we try and solve these problems that the customers have. This kind of brings me to the end of the entire presentation. I thank you very, very much for being patient and listening to what I had to say. My intent was to bring in a lot of practical approach to the presentation so that each of you could take it back into your organization and start thinking that how can you really adopt cloud. We are here to help. Hand this over to our partners, and they can take it over from here. Ron, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Veer and Mr. Deepak, for giving us an insight on how cloud can help businesses navigate during these challenging times and how it can help shape the future as well. I would also like to thank Ms. Rehab and her team as well for sharing their experience of how they have taken advantage of Kalam's cloud solution. Now the floor is open to questions. Please feel free to write them down in the Q&A window, and our speakers will address them one by one. I believe that you have already shared some questions, and now I leave it to Mr. Deepak and Veer to answer them.
Sure. So before I let Deepak answer, first of all, Deepak, thanks a lot for your insight. I'm sure the audience would find it quite useful. I think I also like the way that you presented in a simple manner, not very technical, which allows even a layman like me to be able to understand that. I would like to thank Ms. Rehab and Mr. Hassan for all your kind words. Such appreciation always goes a long way in motivating operators, service providers like us to continue to strive better. And lastly, all our audiences, it's important that to let you know that it's the customers like you all, and are the ones who have who are the ones who are running the operation, who are the ones who are facing the challenges, are the ones who lead to service providers like us to be able to create solutions. So I think it's important that you all share your challenges, and we're very happy to find and create solutions for you. So over to you, Deepak. There are questions out there. You can start addressing.
Ron, if you could read out the question, I'll try and answer them. I'm unable to actually read the question. I can see the numbers, but I can't see the questions. If you could help in assisting, and between me and we should be able to answer those.
Sure, Deepak. So the first question is from Ratna Kumar. Wanago Cloud is same like public cloud providers. Are they the same as Azure, AWS, etc.?
Thank you, Mr. Ratna Kumar, for your question. And I think I answered that in one of the slides. The distinction between a private cloud and a public cloud is A public cloud essentially looks at large distributed architecture. We look at fully managed private cloud solution where we understand customer requirements and try to fit in those needs. So we're not one jacket that fits all. We can tweak around, we can give you some solutions that solve your problem, which are more closer to you. And that kind of helps. The second element that works differently is that we've got a ready-made security platform in place. You don't need to invest in those elements like the perimeter security and from there going down. So it's a fully managed, secure environment that helps solving your problem. And that is the distinction. Ron?
Sure. The next question is from Farah Abin. What is your back-end hypervisor? Are we allowed to know?
While we work with both of these hypervisors, which is VMware and Hyper-V, but our backbone is built on VMware.
Sure. I'll move on to the next question, which is again by Ratna Kumar. E-hosting data front is closed, or are they still providing private cloud services?
E-hosting data fort is a tier 3 data center based out of Internet City in Dubai. They still continue to operate their data center operations business. I'm not very sure of their private cloud offers, but we partner with them in terms of racking and stacking, and they continue to exist. It's actually owned by Mideast Group, which is a $5 billion group globally, and they cut across several industries and several vendors that they represent here. So they continue to operate here, yeah.
Okay. The next question is again by Ratna. They would like to see how the firewall as a service works, and they would like to arrange a demo for this service as well.
So I think this is for Yasin. We will definitely able this. Mr. Ratna Kumar will take this conversation offline. But in a very simplistic sense, the firewall sits in our cloud, and there's an agent that sits in individual machines, and you get connected through that model. But yeah, we will have a longer conversation through a demo session with with our partners in Bahrain to take this conversation. Ron?
Sure. The next question is by Mr. Gaurav. Do you have something which can replace Amazon S3 and with incremental backup solution from local file server?
Again, specific to products, I will have my product teams reach out to you through Yasin and his team in Bahrain. But yes, storage as a service or backup as a service are two essential elements that we work on. And it is based on incremental backups that, customers backup that we take. We follow the 3-to-1 strategy, whereby in some cases, we also, while they take their own backup, we also give them a NAS device on-prem, which takes one backup and then the second copy comes into our cloud. But like I said, a longer conversation with our technical teams and Yashin's team in Bahrain should be able to assist and solve this problem.
Sure. Another question is again from Gaurav. Can we have a price comparison to EC2, T2.xlarge or T2 large to your virtual server?
Okay, I think, adoption of cloud would have certain parameters, some requirements that need to be looked at, basis of which a price comparisons can be done. But like I mentioned in one of the slides, we are up to 40% cheaper when we compare to public clouds. And it completely depends on what your requirements are. Very recently, we've got one of the customers, a very large developer based out of UAE, Azizi Developers, who moved into our cloud from another cloud provider, and they've substantially saved monies, and they've got a number of VMs that they've moved to us. So if you look at your requirements and then you compare the pricing, you will find definitely an advantage, and we can talk about this in person offline on this.
The next question is from Ratna again. Do we need to take a separate link to Wonago, or internet link is fine for hosting infrastructure?
Oh, absolutely fine, Ratna. You can go with your current internet link. We will assess, our engineers will talk to you and assess your current links, what kind of data needs to move into the cloud. And we've had situations, and again, I'm quoting one of the examples. We had a situation where the customer has 15 locations in Africa, where he wanted to upload his financial data. And, internet links are very, very bad in African countries. past 3 years or 2.5 years that they've been with us, we've not faced challenges. Intermittently, if their internet link goes down, they obviously have a problem, and that's a local issue. But if we could sustain and give them the solutions in Africa, I think we should be able to answer through your current internet. And if you need to enhance those links, Kalam would be more than happy to kind of bump up the internet lines that you have today.
Thanks, Deepak. Now, these were all the questions that were posted, which have been answered. Thank you so much, Deepak. I'll give it a few more minutes for anyone who has any questions. Please type them in the Q&A window you will see at the bottom. Please type them and our speakers will respond to you. I'll give it a few minutes before we can wrap up the session.
Thank you, Ron. And thank you everyone once again for being a very, very patient audience. And I've gone through the presentation, and I really appreciate your patience, and please feel free to reach out to me directly or even to our teams in Bahrain.
So I believe there are no more questions, and I would like to wrap up today's session. Well, a big thank you to everyone for attending today's webinar on private cloud solutions. Before you leave this session, kindly please fill our feedback form, which is mentioned in the chat window. Upon submission, you will get a chance to win exciting e-gift vouchers, which you can use from your local favorite brands. The winners will be announced separately via email. Also, please have a lookout for our upcoming webinars on public cloud, next generation branch connectivity, remote working, and security. I wish you all a good day ahead. That's all from my side. Thank you so much. Veer, thank you so much. Deepak, thank you.
Thank you all for conducting. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And I hope you would have all found this session informative, and happy to reach out to any of our team members, your respective account managers, or generally at Kalam. And we'll be more than happy to support you along with one another. Thanks, Deepak, again. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. And we will end the session now. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.